Staring into the mirror in disgust, I felt the icy cold breath of death breathing down my neck. There must be some ultimate force smiling down at us all, everyone but me it would seem. Virgil said that the descent into hell is easy. Alexandra, get down here. Now, I never descended. I was born in the fires of hell, my soul molded from the brimstone that hung in the air. I guess in a past life I had bad karma. Hurriedly, I rushed into the bathroom. I was an Omega, one of two. As an Omega we were beaten and bruised, only allowed scraps off of the plates, food that no one wanted. They hid us in the attic, where we were out of the way. Less of a nuisance, but there was no heat in the winter, so we had to adapt, sleeping in layers and under mounds of blankets that we had been hoarding. As an Omega, we weren't allowed anything, which means no hot water. I think back to my mother. What would my life be now? The daughter of a beta and his mate, happily loved. Safe and sound with my big brother to protect me? Wishful thinking, Alex. Come on, let's go. I knew the truth. I was nothing to them. I had been nothing for a while now. Mommy? Said a younger version of myself, then only 5 years old. I had wandered off away from my mother and I was looking for her now. Over here, my little mouse, said my mother. My mom was a gorgeous woman. She exuded kindness and fairness. Her long blonde hair framed her soft features. Her kind green eyes always seemed to sparkle with some kind of mischief. She was everything that I had wanted to be when I grew up. I'm not a mouse though, I said, giggling as I ran up to her. Really? You are so small you might as well be one, she said with fake astonishment. I am not. Then what shall I call you? Big Bad Wolf Puppy. How about this, you'll be my big bad wolf and I'll be my little mouse, I said, simply enamored with her presence. That's how it was back then, everyone loved her. Yes, that's how it will work. I'll be your little mouse, and you'll be my big bad wolf. We had been out in the woods, taking a walk. Suddenly a growl sounded through the air. My mother and I froze in fear. A giant black wolf walked slowly out of the trees. It was torn up, covered in scars, frothing at the mouth, and missing random chunks of fur. This wolf was dangerous and had seen the terrors of battle. I was frozen. There was nothing I could do to protect myself. Mom moved in front and stood protectively in front of me. Alex, you need to run. Run as fast your little legs can carry you until you get to Daddy. He'll know what to do. Fear coursed through my body and paralyzed me. Alexandra, go. Suddenly she shifted into her mahogany-colored wolf. As she leapt into the air, the big, bad, nasty wolf rose to meet her. Mom put up a great fight. It was clear that she was well trained and could hold her own. But a momentary lapse of judgment caused her to lower her guard. All it takes is a moment, one single moment, to change the course of the future. In a flash of blood and screams, my mother was dead. No, Mommy, I screamed as 4 wolves came out of the trees. I recognized the wolves from my pack, the Alpha, Beta, and the Gamma. And one of the warriors, my father, shifted and ran towards me. I was lying next to my mother's body. The big black wolf had run off when the others came. Quietly, the others left me and my father alone to grieve. My mother's body had changed back to her skin form. Blood covered her entire body, flesh dangled from her throat. Her eyes open blank and unseeing. Her mouth was open in a silent scream. Her soft features distorted into a look of pure fear. She knew, in the end, that she was done for. Ella, my father whispered. My father was a handsome man with black hair, deep blue eyes, and tan skin. His kind eyes suddenly turned vicious. I sat there crying, afraid to move. He suddenly turned on me. You, he growled out. Daddy, is Mommy going to be okay? I said in between tears. No, this is your fault. He growled out. You killed her. You're the reason that she's dead." His voice broke in the end. He turned back to my mother and held her body close while he wept, and all I could do was look on in fear. Sobs racked my tiny frame. The image of my dead mother permanently ingrained in my brain, and every time I closed my eyes all I saw was my mother's mouth open in horror, and her blank eyes staring back at me. I remembered vaguely the Luna sitting in the corner of the room crying. She held her little boy close to her chest as she wept. I could relate to her in some ways. I was a disgrace to all of the werewolf kind. I deserved to die. What wolf couldn't protect themselves? But I was 5 years old. The only thing I knew was that mommy was gone and somehow it was my fault. Thoughts of ending my life had crossed my mind. Maybe, but I don't want to give them the satisfaction to see something that they would all clearly enjoy. I wouldn't even get a proper funeral. My body would probably get thrown into the garbage, and then thrown into the dump for the bugs to feast on. Not that it would be a good one. There really wasn't anything to my form. Literally just skin and bones. That's what happens when you're malnourished. But then again, it could take several days, maybe even weeks before they found my body. They'd only find it when there was no one to clean up their mess. That or the smell of my dead carcass would drift down the stairs, and they'd have to come and bust the door down, where they would see my rotting corpse lying there. How would they react? Would Otto cry? Would he realize all his horrible, nasty mistakes? I subconsciously moved my hand over my side. No. Probably not. They'd be happy. Their only problem would be that there would be no one to pick up after them. No one to clean up their mess. No one to take their beatings. No one to take all the rage and anger that they can dish out. They'd have no one to break. I sighed, got dressed, and went downstairs to face the monsters of hell. I quickly made the journey downstairs. Just as I rounded the last corner, I discovered my older brother, Joshua. He had a dangerous look on his face that told me if I wasn't careful I would surely regret my decisions. I cautiously descended the rest of the stairs and came face to face with my brother. "Hey." I was taking a shower. I suddenly felt a searing pain across my cheek. I didn't have to look in the mirror to see that my face was already starting to bruise. "Make us breakfast now, slut," he spat at me. My brother had brown hair, blue eyes, and tan skin. He was much taller than my 5'4" stature, standing proud at 6'3". He and I used to be really close, at least before my mom died. Shortly after she died, Josh joined the ranks of tormentors that caused me daily pain. "Yes, Beta," I replied. Because I was an Omega, I had no choice but to address the upper wolves by their ranks. Today was supposed to be a good day. It was my 16th birthday after all. Today would change everything. If my mate rejected me, then my wolf would shut down for a period to grieve the loss of our mate and to heal. In that period we would be at our most vulnerable state. Of course, for the female, it was worse because you couldn't phase until you found your mate, and you didn't find that until 18. A mate is the one to hold and love you until you die. Or if you are immortal forever. Mates are supposed to love each other forever, at least that is what I was told. There is such a thing as being rejected by a mate, but it's very rare. Pups are taught from a young age what happens when they're rejected by their mate. If a mate rejects another, the inner wolf shuts down and closes itself off from the world, almost never to return. Not only does the rejection affect the inner wolf, but it affects the human too. To the regular humans, it would seem like the human lost the will to live. In many cases, the human dies of a broken heart. It is very rare to survive being rejected by a mate. If a mate didn't reject another, the wolf would shift with the help and guidance of their mate. I was so lost in thought I didn't realize I had finished making breakfast for the pack elders and their families. I made French toast, 4 pieces for everyone except the pups. I gave them 2 pieces. 2 pieces of bacon and 1 sausage for everyone. I put the syrup and ketchup in the middle of the table and proceeded to clean up my mess from breakfast. This time I remembered to grab a piece of toast for myself. The pack sometimes thought it was okay to make me starve. It was no surprise to anyone that I was so small. I went back up to the attic, where my room was. I quickly put on skinny jeans, an oversized sweatshirt, and my black Converse. I put my frizzy black hair into a bun. I went downstairs only to stop short. They were all laughing and eating. Like a family. The feeling of isolation slowly crept into my bones. It doesn't matter, Alex, we have to go now. They truly made me sick. I heard my father and the alpha laugh. My father was the beta and Josh was the future beta. He would take over the position on his 18th birthday, making way for the new generation. I heard footsteps coming down the stairs behind me, which only made me snap out of my trance and run for the door. My brother was coming down the stairs and I did not want to know what he had in store for me. Once I was out the door, I quickly ran to the forest. It didn't take me long to reach a clearing in the woods. Here I would wait for Tom. He was my best friend and confidant. Roughly 5 minutes later, I heard rustling in the trees, and out came Tom. His dark skin contrasted his baby blue eyes. It was very rare to see a person of color with those eyes, but they suited him. At least they would if he was well taken care of. Now, his vibrant eyes were dull and lacked any life, much like my own. Tom. You ready to do this thing? I said, trying to sound happier than I felt. Hey, no, not just yet. It was then that I noticed he was hiding something behind his back. He slowly brought out a cupcake and a small bag. I don't know what expression crossed my face at that moment because fear took over his features as he brought his hand back. I know that you said you didn't want anything, but I thought since it was your birthday, I couldn't resist. Rambled Tom. He didn't have a chance to say anything else because I pulled him into a big hug. He didn't react at first. I don't think he knew how to react. Hell, I don't blame him. This was the first gift I had received since before my mother died. Going 11 years without any kind of affection was a long time, and it had been even longer for Tom. Yes, people fed us, and they gave us a place to sleep, they gave us clothes for our back. But after a certain point, they just stopped caring and the only people we had were each other. Thank you, Tom, I replied, genuinely meaning it. I carefully took the gift bag. As I was about to open the gift, Tom frantically said, "Stop, you have to blow out the candle first." I watched in amusement as he pretended to pull out a match and light a candle. He sang happy birthday in the most out-of-tune way possible. If we had been back at the pack house, this would not have happened. But the wolves of our pack didn't venture this way into the woods. If you went any farther you'd come to the cliff that my mother died on. Needless to say, the pack avoided this side of our territory. It, however, worked for us. Since no one came out here, it gave us the opportunity to be as loud as we wanted. Not that we were or anything. Years of abuse caused us to be shy and meek no matter where we were. So, to hear Tom singing as atrociously as possible was as good a birthday present as whatever lay in this bag. Once Tom was done singing, I wasted no time opening up the bag. Inside was a handmade bracelet made of butcher's twine and other threads that were intricately woven together. It's beautiful, Tom. Thank you. I told him, tears streaming down my face. You like it? I love it. Slowly, we walked towards the school. I glanced at the time and saw we still had half an hour before class started. Tom and I started to pick up speed. I can't phase, but I still have all the higher senses of a real wolf. The females have to wait for their mate, but the males phase when they are 13. Tom rarely did it because the first time he did, he was captured by the pack and they shaved off his fur. They left him outside for days chained to a pole. When they were finally done using him for sport, he was severely frostbitten and had a case of hypothermia. When the frostbite left his body, it only made way for a more terrible monster. Pneumonia ravaged his body for weeks, and for a while, I thought he was going to leave me just like my mother. But he survived, and he was very different. Long gone was the innocent child who hoped for love. In its place was a boy scarred and broken, waiting for the onslaught that was sure to begin once the sun had risen the next morning. The story of the Midnight Angel goes like this. Thousands of years ago, 3 sisters ruled the heavens. The eldest sister Adelphi was queen among the celestials, but somehow she was corrupted, constantly driven by jealousy of her other 2 sisters. The middle child, Artemis, had the power to create and restore life. She maintained control over all supernatural beings on earth at her sister Adelphi's command. The youngest child, Alexandria, was the protector of the supernatural world. Gifted with strong and powerful wings, as well as other gifts befitting a celestial being, Alexandria took down Adelphi and helped to restore peace among the kingdom. Or at least that was the kind of story my mom used to tell me when I couldn't sleep at night. Supposedly the angel was charged to come down to earth and fix all of Adelphi's mistakes. Legend says that Adelphi created a race of werewolf soul-sucking demons, but I always thought it was bullshit anyway. And then my mother died, and the story lost any real meaning it would have had for me. After Otto Black's mate died, my mother slowly began to fall ill. The doctors thought she died of grief. Maybe it was because she felt that she was not good enough to protect her pack. Almost as if she felt she was not worthy to be the Luna, a wife, or even a mom anymore. Shortly after my mom died, my dad changed a lot. He became a very ruthless alpha, and he had no patience for mistakes. That became very evident when he started to punish the Omegas more harshly than usual. I didn't know how my mom would have reacted if she could see him now. Part of me knows that she would hate the way my dad treats the Omegas, having been one herself in her previous pack. It's hard to make a man who's lost his mate see any form of reason. All he saw me as was the next in line. He had a very clear idea of how he wanted the pack to be run. Anything that didn't meet his expectations is unworthy of his attention. Snapping back to reality, I took a closer look in the mirror. As the future alpha of the Midnight Moon pack, there was a lot of pressure on my shoulders to make my dad proud. The Midnight Moon pack is not a weak pack by any means, but that does not mean that we are the strongest pack either. I stared at my reflection and feel a slight pang of disgust. Mom would hate to see me now. I hear a groan, coming from behind me, which instantly catches my attention. I turned my head to see Ashley. She was tall and slender, with a golden tan that seemed to make her honey blonde hair stand out, and dark chocolate eyes that seemed to go on forever. She was wicked smart, but she was the biggest slut in the pack. She was only fucking me because of my status as a future alpha. She was ambitious and deviant. To others that made her unlikable and evil, to me it made her sexy as hell. She opened her eyes and made eye contact with mine. She gave me that mischievous little smile that told me I was most likely going to be late for school. 30 minutes later I was finally getting back out of bed. By this point in my life, I had mastered the art of taking quick showers and throwing clothes on. When I got out of I put on a pair of dark blue jeans, a white V-neck shirt, and a jacket, as well as my military-grade boots. I know I'm a player. But every man has their own needs, and Ashley was more than willing to satisfy them for me, though she wasn't the only fuck buddy I had. I did a quick assessment of my wolf. He seemed to be tense and on edge, though I can't blame him considering who our father island. Looking in the mirror one last time before I left for school, I double-checked to see if I was presentable enough. My dark brown hair was a little messy, but nothing more than usual. The first thing that most people notice about me is the color of my eyes. My left eye was a deep green color, while the other was a bright icy blue. The next thing people notice about me is my tall and muscular build. To outsiders, people see a pale bad boy player type. I'm pretty much a walking cliché, but who gives a shit? I walked out of my room just in time to run into Ashley. "Hey baby," she said with a sultry tone of voice. "Hey, babe," I said as I pecked her lips. There was no love in our relationship, and she was perfectly fine with that. Everything gets complicated when feelings are involved. Still, Ashley did not hesitate to deepen the kiss. She hadn't had enough of me this morning, it would seem. "Come on, we'll find a closet at lunch," I said, smirking. I was sitting in trigonometry, trying to keep my head down and appear virtually invisible before the class started. I tried to keep my movements as small as possible as I looked up and saw that there were 2 seats open, one by me and one in the front row. Suddenly, the classroom door opened and the future alpha himself walked in. I felt the power radiate off of him as I lowered my head in submission. His scent wafted through my nose, and the feeling of dread kicked in. Still I dared not look up. Jack Grayson always had fascinating eyes. They were 2 different colors, which I guess that's what drew people in. I was terrified of what I would see if I looked up and made eye contact with those fascinating eyes of his. Where one goes, the other is surely following behind, so it's no surprise to me when his girlfriend Ashley walks in behind him. While Jack had all the power on Pack territory, Ashley had all the power here at school. To the humans she looked exotic and interesting. It was no wonder she had almost everyone wrapped around that perfectly manicured pinky of hers. Seeing no other options, Jack walked to the desk next to me. I didn't look at him. I knew what was going to happen if I did. I should have expected Ashley would come and knock my stuff to the floor. She does every day. The only difference today is because my seat just happens to be by Jack's. As I bent over to pick up my stuff, I felt a sharp pain shoot up my back towards my neck. I collapsed on the floor as the searing pain took a while to subside. "Get out of my way, slut. Losers can't sit here," Ashley said with an evil look on her face. Gradually I picked myself up and as calmly as I could, I grabbed my things off the floor. I walked to the front of the classroom with a stony look on my face. Not once did I turn around, and not once did I let them know how much it hurt on the inside. "Happy birthday, Alex." As I left trigonometry, I was so distracted I didn't even realize that I had run into something, or should I say, someone. That is until his smell invaded my senses. He smelled like sunshine in the morning. He smelled like oranges and mint. There were so many other ways that I could describe it, and I knew that I was absolutely in deep shit. Jack was my mate, and there was nothing I could do. I looked up into his eyes, and suddenly it was like I was seeing color for the first time. Various emotions passed through his eyes: shock, regret, and disgust all appeared instantaneously. I walked away very fast, praying that he didn't smell me too. I knew what was going to happen. I knew that I should be happy for once, but the sinking feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. I kept my head down the rest of the day. I tried to draw as little attention to myself as possible. Not for the first time in my life, I wished for my secluded attic. I hoped that the rest of the day would go by quickly so I could at least finish my birthday in peace. Unfortunately, I am not that lucky. After school was over, I tried to get out of there as fast I could. I didn't even wait for Tom, which went against everything in me. Tom and I vowed to stick together no matter what. I'm hoping that Tom would understand when I explained it to him later. I managed to get all the way out to the forest before he got up with me. When he did finally catch up with me, he wasn't exactly gentle. I was about halfway home when I was suddenly slammed against a tree. I felt the breath leave my body in a big whoosh. "If you tell anyone that we are mates, I'll kill you. Got it?" said Jack. The rage was radiating off of him in ways. He was so powerful and he looked so murderous. He let me go and said the one phrase that made me feel like I was going to die. "I, Jack Blake Grayson, reject you, Alexandra Schuyler Black, as my mate," he said with a little bit of disgust in his voice. I couldn't look him in the eyes, and I tried so hard not to break down. "I, Alexandra Schuyler Black, accept your rejection." I managed to choke it out without crying. The instant I said it, it felt like a rubber band snapped around my heart, slowly starting to squeeze. He looked at me in disgust as he turned on his heels and left. I ran as fast as I could home. I ran into the house without even really seeing where I was going. I bumped into someone but I couldn't focus on anything other than the pain in my chest. "Watch where you're walking, slut." It was Otto, my sperm donor. I finally made it to the safety of my dusty attic. I sat on my bed and cried my eyes out. I hadn't cried this much since my mom died. I stayed in there trying to think of a way that will satisfy my pain. I was in so much pain. I could feel it in my chest what he was doing. That filthy little piece of shit. I could tell when he was fucking her. There were two different kinds of pain. After the initial rejection, the rubber band feeling felt like constant sharp pain. When he was fucking her, it felt like my heart was on fire and I truly thought I was going to die. I don't know how long I stayed there. I stared off into the abyss, hoping beyond hope that it would swallow me whole. I finally looked at the clock and it was 6:30. If I didn't start making dinner now, there was going to be hell to pay, and I didn't think I had the energy to pay hell today. I got up and went to find Tom. When it was finally time to start cooking, Tom and I were left alone to do all the work. Most of the pack didn't want to be near us. "Hey, where were you after school? I thought we were going to walk back to the main house together." Tom started the conversation. He sounded casual, but I could tell he was upset. "I found my mate," I said quietly. I peeked over at him and saw virtually no reaction. He was expecting this news. "That's great," he replied. "Who is he?" First, I looked around the room to make sure that no one would hear us. Then, as quietly as I could manage, I whispered to Tom, "Jack." I expected Tom's reaction. He looked absolutely baffled. Before he could respond, I explained the whole story to him. By the end, I was trying so hard not to cry again. I could see the pity in Tom's eyes and I had never felt more pathetic in my life. "Tom, I can't stay here. I can't be around him. I'm not going to survive this if I don't leave." "Then go, Alex. I'll stay behind to cover your tracks." I looked into his eyes. I couldn't leave him. He was already severely abused because he was so different from everyone in our pack. I couldn't ask him to do this for me. I opened my mouth to protest, but Tom beat me to the point. "Alex, you're never going to get anywhere if you don't leave this place. The moon goddess knows when my time here will end. I don't know when that will be, but I know it's not time yet." Tom helped me make as much food as possible. The adults each got 3 steaks, 1 baked potato, corn, and milk. While the kids get 1 steak, mashed potatoes, and corn, and milk. Tom and I had always been a team. We worked fast and efficiently to get the food cooked and cleaned up as fast as possible. I called out for dinner to be served and then I ran as quickly as I could because this plan needed to work. I couldn't do this anymore. I scribbled a quick note to the pack and was out the window so fast, I scared the birds on the windowsill. I don't remember anything leading up to the rejection. As soon as it was done, I left as quickly as possible. My wolf was snarling and thrashing in my head. At that moment he was nothing but a wild animal ready for the kill. "Baby, let me take away your suffering," Ashley said seductively in my ear. 20 minutes later I heard her beautiful voice calling that dinner was ready. "Come on baby, let's go get dinner and then we can go for round 2. She said flirtatiously. The food was amazing, but I didn't have an appetite. My heart was aching, and I was trying to push down the feeling of regret. "Shouldn't Alex be cleaning this up?" said Otto. "Yes, I will call her," said my dad. "Alex, come and clean this up," said my father in his alpha tone. We waited and still, she did not come. Dread started to fall over me. "Josh, go look for your sister." Joshua stood up in annoyance and stomped up the stairs towards Alex's attic. He was gone for nearly 15 minutes before we received an update. "She's gone." I had been running for what felt like 3 hours now. As I drew farther away from my home, the mate bond between me and Jack grew. Well, since my mate rejected me and I ran away, I still have the pack trace, which is what the wolves have to let them know where they are. If and when I get accepted, the pack trace will disappear, or I reject my alpha and pack. And since I am currently on the border of my pack, when I step out it will disappear completely. As I kept moving forward, I realized the land is rougher. I must have crossed the border into Canada. If I had to guess, I was somewhere in Quebec. My wolf had shut down almost immediately. The mate is usually there to help the female through the change. Just because a female is rejected doesn't mean that she can't shift. Now it would all depend on when my wolf heals. It was up in the air. I could change as soon as tonight, or I could change in months. It's all up to her now. I journeyed for another few hours before I decided to stop for the night. I didn't even bother to start a fire. It was bitterly cold outside, but the way that I thought about it is, if I'm lucky enough, I'll freeze to death. I was not that lucky. When I woke up, I could barely feel anything. I knew to take that as my cue to get moving. I had been walking for at least 45 minutes when I stumbled upon a little town. It was a cute little town with a few stores on the main drive. One of those stores was a little thrift shop. I went in trying to find some kind of jacket. I had to keep moving if I wanted to get as far away from the midnight moon pack as soon as possible. I grabbed what I needed and tried to get out of there without being noticed. There were a few people in the store, but I tried not to look at them. I tried to appear as unnoticeable as possible. If only I had been paying more attention, maybe then I would have noticed that the people in the store were werewolves. I had made it to the other side of town and back into the forest before they caught up with me. It was their growls that made me stop dead in tracks, and suddenly I was surrounded by wolves. One was as large as the alpha. His wolf was pure white, with large green eyes that seemed to keep me hostage. The next two were large, so it would make sense that they were warrior wolves. The soldiers of the pack. I am a warrior wolf since I am the beta's daughter. But circumstances being what they were, I didn't get to train. One of the warrior wolves was dark brown. It looked black with brown eyes. The other was a dusty color with blue eyes. I was so lost in thought that I didn't realize that they had surrounded me. They were growling menacingly at me. The beta went behind a tree and shifted. When he stepped out, I gasped. To say he was gorgeous was an understatement. But he has nothing on Jack, I thought miserably. He had whitish blondish hair that curled up and blue eyes that were as deep as the Pacific Ocean. He was tall and chiseled and his muscles made him look like a god. He said something in French, but I couldn't understand. Huh? I said lamely. I said, what are you doing on our land? He said, his voice was fairly deep and stern. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get away from my pack. I didn't mean to cause any harm. Well, be that as it may, you stole that jacket from one of our own and we can't have that. Not to mention the fact that you should be grateful to your pack. They put the clothes on your back, they kept you fed and healthy, not to mention they gave you a home, he said passionately. I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. We searched for what seemed like hours. We combed every area of the house, and at one point Jack had gone so far as to throw Thomas in the pack dungeon. He questioned him for what seemed like hours. Where is she? Jack yelled in frustration. I don't know. She just told me she couldn't take it anymore. Thomas cowered and shivered on the floor. He seemed truly pitiful. So you mean to tell me, Jack gritted out through his teeth, that she would rather be a rouge than live with her pack? By this point he seemed outraged. Jack and I watched as Thomas changed before our eyes. He stood up tall and walked closer to the bars. He looked directly into Jack's eyes, and it was almost like his eyes lit up. Now why do you think she wanted to get away from the pack, Alpha? He said the word alpha like it was some kind of insult. Jack visibly flinched but remained silent. Thomas took that as a sign to keep going apparently. What has this pack ever done for her, or any of us Omegas? You treated us like dirt beneath your boot and you want to know why she left. Look in the mirror, pal. It's probably because she couldn't handle the pain of you fucking Ashley. Jack finally heard enough and snapped. I watched in horror as Jack threw himself against the bars. Thomas backed away in horror and curled up in the corner. I looked over at Jack in horror. Jack slowly turned towards me and looked me in the eyes. She couldn't handle the pain. I slowly choked out. We're mates. That was all Jack had to say before I exploded on him. How long was she gone now? Just a few hours? A few days? Alex didn't have any warm clothes. How was she going to survive in the cold? She didn't have any money either. If she wasn't frozen to death, then she was surely imprisoned by another enemy pack. We all felt it when she walked over the pack borders. The pack trace had snapped. She was pretty much invisible to us now. I am so stupid, I said. Ever since she left, Jack had been in a slump. I can't believe fate would be so cruel as to give her to him. Of course, fate gave her to my pack. Alex, I'm the worst brother in the world, and if we ever meet again I will let you slap me 50 times over and over. Mr. Tall, dark, and sexy and his lackeys brought me into a very impressive office. I took this time to really look at him. I thought that he was the alpha when I first saw him. He was certainly as powerful as an alpha, yet he seemed closed off and humble. Like a fierce warrior but a gentle giant. I noticed that he was staring at me too. I wondered what he was seeing when he looked at me. Was he seeing my dirty unkempt hair? The dirt that was smeared across my face? I did find myself wondering about him. Why was I so curious about him? Why did he seem so familiar to me? The sound of the door opening brought me out of my trance and back into the present moment. Here comes the alpha. When he finally walked in, he made quite the impression. He was tall, muscular, and broad. He had a very dark aura about him, and I wasn't quite sure how to process it. His slight stubble and brown eyes made him look older than he actually was. As he came around me to sit down, I saw that he looked to be roughly 20 years old. He looked young to be an alpha. He also looked horribly exhausted. Just from looking around the office I could tell that he was a busy man. He had papers scattered around his desk, and a cold cup of tea sitting there too. "Hello, welcome to Shadow Woods Pack," he said stiffly. This was just a formality. Normally rouges were either killed on sight, or they were sent straight to the pack dungeons. I wondered why I was in a different case. What made me so special anyway? "Hello," I said quietly. I didn't know this alpha, but I had heard of this pack. They were formidable against their enemies. They were also very exclusive and very rarely opened up to outsiders. "What business do you have inside our borders?" he said roughly. "I'm just trying to get away from my old pack." I murmured. "Why?" he said. "When I was 5, my mother and I were walking in the woods. We were just walking and talking." My heart clenched as I recalled the memory. I told everything. I even showed him the scar on my back. We were attacked in the woods by a rouge. My mom did everything she could to protect me, but in the end she couldn't save herself. The alpha and beta found me and my mom. The warriors went to chase off the rouge, but they never caught up with him. I'm not entirely sure why they blamed me. I think it's because I was the reason we were in the woods. They took me into custody and interrogated me for what felt like hours. When they weren't able to get much out of me, they branded me as a way to show the rest of the pack that I wasn't to be trusted, as a way to identify me as vermin. There were certain rules that they placed on me. I wasn't allowed to eat with the pack or the other Omegas. I wasn't allowed to go to my mom's funeral. After that I was treated as a slave. I did everything they asked of me and still got punished. Some of them just wanted to use me as a punching bag. Others wanted to use me as a plaything. I stopped suddenly. I took a moment to compose myself before I started again. I didn't want to look in their eyes. I didn't want to see the look of pity. 2 days ago, it was my birthday. I was supposed to meet my mate and shift for the first time. However, when I met my mate he didn't even blink an eye when he rejected me. I heard a growl echo throughout the room, causing me to look up sharply. There was a stray tear, but there was a hard look in my eyes. I apologize for my men. As pups we are taught that having a mate is a sacred thing to treasure. It is sacrilegious, as you say, to reject the one that the moon goddess chose for you. Yes, he rejected me, and then he walked away. And that night while I was making food, I could feel him fucking his girlfriend. I'm very sorry for all the pain that you have endured. I looked into his eyes and saw the look of pity I had been avoiding. I don't want your pity, I growled out, causing the other men to growl out in response. I felt myself go on edge, preparing for the worst. all the alpha did was chuckle in response. Well, I can offer you some sort of protection. We'll put you under a different trace. Why are you helping me? I was wary to let down my guard after years of abuse. He gave a thoughtful look at his beta. It seemed like they were having a significant moment. After a while, he turned back to me and said, "We have a few members who have not been fortunate enough to meet their mates, and that has caused them a lot of pain. I can only imagine what being rejected does to a soul." I just gave a silent nod, trying to process the new information. "We can offer you some protection against your old pack if they are still looking for you. We will place you under a temporary trace until you can recover from your wounds," said the alpha. Whose trace? Curiosity was getting the best of me by this point. Ours. "But you have to learn French and go to the school in town. Once you are fluent, we will bring you into the pack and give you a rank. We will also train you to defend yourself. Do you agree to these terms?" "Yes," I said with conviction. I had a new chance to change the cards that had been laid out for me. Who was I to turn this down? "Good, my name is Daniel." "My name is Alexandra, but call me Alex." The girl on top is Jessie. Alexandra's point of view. "It has been 2 weeks since I came to the Shadow Woods pack. I learned that they were located in Kingsey Falls, Quebec. It's a small town, but it had a lot of character. The people here seemed very friendly. They were also willing to help me. Michael and Daniel worked hard to train me to protect myself. It was a hard process, but I felt like I was making some progress. After each training session, I felt exhausted and my limbs felt like they were going to fall off. If I wasn't going to training, I was studying French. My French lessons were frustrating, to say the least. It was a very difficult language, but I still gave it all my effort. Today was a fairly nice day out. The snow was shining like a million tiny diamonds, and I felt that it was far too beautiful to stay indoors. I was walking around the grounds of the pack's property. Their lands were vast and expansive. They had pups running around playing and laughing, their mothers sitting off to the side watching. Just by looking at them, I could see that they had so much love for their little ones. I couldn't help but feel the little pang of jealousy that sprung up in my chest. Slowly I walked away from them and came across a group of girls sitting around a fire gossiping. I mean, come on, she can't even stick up for herself. Beta Michael beats her in almost every sparring match. What's her name anyway? She looks like she crawled out of the sewer. Who does she think she is, coming in here and thinking she can learn French and she'll just be welcomed into our pack? I know, they were speaking in French, yet I could understand them perfectly. I mean, no wonder her mate rejected her. It all makes perfect sense. They were talking about me. Who were these girls to think they could judge me? Who were they to question the motives of their alpha? I walked out, and they were stalking off in the other direction. 2 months later I was talking to Daniel in perfect French. It took me only 2.5 months to do it when usually it takes around 5 years to truly learn a language. Wow, I'm impressed. We had been talking in French for a few hours now. Daniel knew all there was to know about me, not that there was a lot. "You're speaking perfect French." He seemed just as bewildered as me as to how I knew the language after only 2 months of learning it. "You're sure you've never studied it before?" he asked suspiciously. "No, I didn't know a lick of it before I came here," I said, holding my arms up in surrender. "A deal is a deal. I Alpha Daniel Michael Lavone offer you a place in the Shadow Woods pack. Do you accept my offer?" he said in his alpha tone. "I Alexandra Schuyler Black accept your offer to join the Shadow Woods pack." I felt something snap in the back of my head. He brought out a knife and I visibly tensed. Daniel saw this. "Relax." He cut his hand and gave me the knife. I was shaking so bad. I could feel the brand marks on my side as I brought the knife across my hand. I barely felt the pain. "You get used to it after a while." He started saying something ancient under his breath and we held our hands together as if we were shaking hands. "Can you hear me?" a voice rang out in my head. I realized it was Daniel. "Yes," I said. I smiled so wide I thought my face was going to fall off. I gave Daniel a meaningful smile as his beta came up to talk to him. I don't think I would ever get over the way he made my breath leave my body. "Welcome to the pack," said the beta with a slight grin. "Who are you?" I asked curiously. I heard a thundering laugh go through my head, and I looked around thinking that came from somewhere nearby. It took me another moment to realize that it was the beta laughing. "Mikhail, we will bring you to meet the pack tonight at 5 o'clock. We did things a little out of order, but it can't be changed now. How could you be so stupid as to invite that little slut into our pack?" Screeched a squeaky voice. There was a tall girl stomping towards us. She looked absolutely furious and outraged. "Simple," said a soft voice. The voice sounded strong. It turned out that the voice belonged to a short girl with fiery red pixie hair, pale skin, and the same bright blue eyes as Mikkel. "Stay out of this, pipsqueak," said the tall girl. The second one laughed out at that. "Come on, Margot, get a load of this." "I think she needs to back off," said a third voice. I looked over at Daniel to see a small smile on his face. He walked toward the voices, and I followed close behind him. The third girl was beautiful. There was no other way to describe her. Even though she was short, it didn't stop her from looking so strong and fierce. Her honey-colored hair flowed behind her back. It was her eyes that also seemed to capture a lot of attention. They were lined with black coal eyeshadow which enhanced her sky-blue eyes. When the three girls finally took notice of us, they stopped arguing almost immediately. "Oh my gosh, you must be Alexandra." "Hi, I'm Jessie," said the red-headed girl. She seemed so bubbly to me. "Jess," said the first girl. She was tall and looked a lot like Ashley, only her hair was brown, and her fake tan wasn't as bad. "You have to call me Jessica," Jessie said defiantly. "Hi, I'm Margot," said the blonde one in a soft voice. She had on a leather jacket and skinny jeans and combat boots. "Jessie and Margot, you two are in charge of training Alex. Vivian, you need to go back to the closet you just came out of and clean that poor boy up," said Daniel. He walked over to Margot and Jessie. "Alex, this is my mate, Margot. Careful, because if you piss her off she will go and kill someone." He chuckled and gave her a peck on the cheek and left. He left me with the scariest girls I've ever met. "We are going to have so much fun," said Jessie. "Please just don't hurt me," I said seriously. "Why would we hurt you?" said Margot. "Yeah, besides we just found our next best friend." With that, we started the first day of my official training. "Run to the edge of the territory and back. I will run next to you. Margot will time us." Margot got out her iPod and said, "On your marks, get set, go." And we were off. Girl on top is Alexandra's point of view, so this was freedom. I ran next to Margot and Jessie. Jessie and Margot were both in their wolf forms, but I was easily keeping pace with them. We were running so fast it felt like I was flying. I had been here for 3 months, and for the first time in my life I was happy. We ran for what felt like hours and hours, and by the end of it, Michael and Daniel were with us. Mikhail's strong white wolf never failed to take my breath away. When we finally stopped to rest and get water, I was suddenly pulled into a trance. It was like the rest of the world disappeared. A burning sensation started at my tailbone. The pain wasn't so bad at first, it was subtle at first, but it gradually began to burn with more intensity. And then it was so unbearable I fell immediately to the ground and almost fainted. But I stayed just at the edge of consciousness. I thought I'd be able to slip away and let the pain take me, but I felt everything. I distantly heard someone come over to my side. "Alex?" a voice questioned. I writhed on the ground in pain. So this was the beginning of the change. Alex. It was from Jessie. I thought of all the pain I had gone through my whole life. All of the beatings, the lashings, all of the emotional and physical abuse. I realized that nothing was as painful as this. I was changing. My pack didn't want me to be like them. I relished the pain even though it was awful. I let it take me, and I reveled in the fact that if I could survive all of that pain, then I could survive this too, even if I didn't have my friends by my side. Shh, it's okay, it's almost over, soothed Mikhail. He and I had grown close over the last few months. Slowly the pain traveled up my spine and into my arms and legs. That's when things started to snap and pop out of place, each bone rearranging and popping into a new place. But then the pain reached my neck and my skull. This was the worst part. My snout was elongating, but it felt like my brain was being compressed and squeezed. The pressure behind my eyes was unbearable and stars danced across my vision. Then the pain was gone, gone as fast as it had come. I opened my eyes and everything came into clear focus. I heard what sounded like gasps, but I couldn't be sure. I stood up and looked down. I realized that I had phased for the first time. Alex, do you know how to phase back? Daniel asked slowly, as if a sudden move might set me off. The look in his eyes scared me down to my bones. He looked pale and scared. I didn't want anyone to be scared of me. With a small whimper, I ran away from them. I wanted to get away from that look. How bad was it? Were all of my scars out in the open now? Was I horribly disfigured? Did they think I wouldn't be able to turn back? Fear suddenly sliced through me. What if I couldn't turn back? I had heard of some wolves being so scarred from their past that they simply remained in their wolf forms forever. Alex, Michael said through the pack link. I looked around frantically. I didn't want him to find me, so I continued to run. Thinking back on it, I should have taken the time to appreciate the feeling of the earth beneath my paws. I should have paid attention to all of the sounds and smells that surrounded me. I should have taken a moment to stop and feel the wind in my fur. But Mikkel was on my tail and I didn't want to face the fears that were slowly eating me alive. But I should have known that it wouldn't take him long to catch up to me. He cut me off so suddenly that it caused me to run into him and we both tumbled to the ground, with him on top of me. I looked into his eyes, and I swear I lost my breath for a moment. When he finally took a moment to really look at me, he got off of me and bowed down. What you doing? Confusion coating my voice, he looked up at me shocked. Almost as if I hadn't known the dirty little secret. You don't know? He said confused, am I missing something? I said to him, annoyance coating my voice. Alex, you're a black wolf. It took me a second to figure out what he said. Oh my, I'm a black wolf. Black wolves were incredibly rare. Among normal wolves, they're not terribly uncommon. But among werewolves, black wolves are bigger and stronger than other wolves. Usually, they were alphas or ranked among the important roles in our society. Not only did their dark coat give them an advantage in the wild, but they were stronger and faster than other wolves. It's impossible that I'm one. I was insignificant, unimportant, and unmentionable to the world. You're hilarious. I turned and ran away from him. To think I liked him. Yes, I admitted I liked him. I was finally getting over Jack. Michael makes me laugh and smile for real. I don't know how he feels about me, but I know how I feel about him. He says my wolf will come back, and when she does she will be spectacular in all ways. He says that I don't need to be saved. He says I'm strong and no one can ever take that away from me. He is good for us, said a voice in my head. I let a small yelp out of shock. You're wolf, confirming the unasked question in my mind. What's your name? I say, excitement coloring my voice. As cheesy as I sound, a wolf's consciousness is like a built-in best friend, and sometimes your worst enemy. My name is Legend. How do I change? I need to be human. Just think of yourself as human but go back before you change. I don't want anyone to see us. She sighed, voices called out my name, and I wasn't sure what to do next. Alex. They were calling for me. I sprinted to them. Jessie. She's here. Screamed Margot. Margot looked at me with awe. I ran around her and went to the closest tree. Okay, let's do this. How do I change? Human, okay, think human. I relaxed my shoulders, and when I looked down, I still saw paws, black paws. They were right. I'm still a wolf. Suddenly the same intense burning starts at the base of my spine. This pain is just like the first one, only it is 5 times worse due to all of my heightened senses. I collapsed in a heap. I whimpered and thrashed around on the floor. Again it feels as if my whole body is on fire. It moves up to my chest. This pain intensifies. Up to my head, it feels like my head is being split in half, stretched, and squished. Then it stops. I poked my head out from behind the tree and called out Margot's name. She went to go find me some clothes but gave me her jacket to wrap around myself. When I finally had clothes on, Daniel and I went to go have a meeting in his office. Daniel started the conversation as, "Alex, do you know what color your wolf is?" I let my silence answer me. Jack's point of view, pain, so much pain. Jesse's point of view, Alex had become one of my best friends. It broke my heart to see her in so much pain, when she was changing. But there was only so much we could do. When she went missing, Margot and I were running around, screaming her name at the top of our lungs, frantically trying to find her. Alex was asleep now. When she turned back into a human and went back into the house to talk with Daniel, she passed out in the middle of their conversation. I remember when I changed. I slept for like 3 days after. I can only imagine what kind of things were running through her head. To suddenly be so rare and important after going so long thinking you were insignificant was a heartbreaking revelation. I stood outside her room, standing guard. Mikhail had wanted to be here, but he looked like he was ready to fall over in exhaustion. Mikhail was my big brother. How could I not have his best interest at heart? I heard whimpering coming from Alex's room and I was instantly on alert. When I quietly walked into her room, I was utterly shocked at what I saw. She was changing. Her frizzy short hair was growing out so that it was now long, wavy, and went to her waist. Her hair was already dark brown, but it went several shades darker to midnight black. Her round face thinned out and any kind of skin blemish seemed to correct itself. Her milky skin seemed to almost shine. She was shining almost as brightly as the moon goddess herself. Alex bolted upright in bed, almost as if she was a marionette puppet. Her eyes sprang open, and her green eyes went silver. Her pale face seemed to brighten with color and her pale lips filled in just a little and turned a soft pink color. She was truly stunning. "Jesse? Is something wrong?" said Margot walking by the room. "Holy cheese and rice!" she exclaimed. As if being held by a string, I watched as Alex began to rise out of her bed. Even though her eyes were wide open, I couldn't exactly tell if she was awake. And then suddenly she was floating in air, suspended in time. "Margot, go and get the alpha!" Alex screamed. I looked and saw dark black wings coming out of her back. "It's her," Margot whispered. I looked over at Margot, confused. As soon as it looked like her wings were free, she slowly descended and was resting softly on her bed. She only screamed the one time, otherwise she was completely silent. I know that if it were me, I would be crying like a little bitch. Margot and I watched as Alex came around. She slowly sat up and tried to get her bearings. She was definitely shocked, but again handled the situation with grace, as opposed to my screaming and crying. Alex examined her new wings with awe. They were beautiful. She looked at us and said, "Please tell me you see this too," she said with shock. We nodded, our mouths hanging open. A look of relief crossed her face. "Are you gonna tell anyone?" I asked. "Just the people who need to know," she said absently. "What are gonna do now?" "I'm gonna learn to fly." No matter how hard I tried, I still could not get him to shut up. "Alex, do you know the answer to number 3? Troy Johnson sat at the desk right next to mine. We happened to be table partners for this particular class. His dull hair was close to his scalp. He was about average height, with sharp awkward angles that made up his stature. Maybe he would have been a friend if he wasn't so arrogant. I believe it's option C. Don't quote me on that, though. I replied, trying to focus on my work. Oh, Alex, you're so funny and smart. How could you be wrong? Troy replied in a dreamy voice. College was stressful as it was. I didn't need a lovesick boy following after me, but those were the cards handed to me. I had been at the University of West London for about 2 years. Margot and Jesse were here too. Both of them were studying business management and ethics. I studied history and theory. Trying to get into this school was hard, and at first, Daniel was apprehensive about letting us go. Margot explained that she wanted to do right by her people. Margot had never gone to high school. Instead, she had graduated with a GED. Come on, Daniel, please, don't make me stay here under lock and key. Don't try and protect me from some monster that only exists in your head, Margot begged furiously. She had been so adamant about this that it was hard not to be persuaded by her. Margot had genuine charisma, she was a true leader, and I started to see it in how she was carrying herself lately, almost like she was more comfortable with her role. Why do you want to go all the way across the sea, though? What if something happens and I'm not there to protect you? I can't spend the years it will take for you to graduate across the sea. I have to be here. My people need me. Our people need us to be the strongest we can be. We will not be strong if we are too worried about each other, she said with exasperation. Besides, she continued, this school is good. They have an amazing business program, and we'll be able to build ourselves up even more. Daniel still seemed hesitant while Michael stood in the corner of the room. He had a neutral look on his face. I could tell that something was bothering him, though. We had grown close in the time that I had been here. He was one of my closest friends. I wanted more, but I knew there could never be anything else. His mate was still out there. Whoever she was lucky. After what felt like hours, Margot had finally convinced Daniel. There were conditions, of course. 2 of our best fighters were to go with her. She wasn't to talk to anyone she didn't know, and she was to check in every night, no matter what. I looked up at the sound of the door, closing softly. Michael was gone. I swiftly followed him out of the room. He went outside into the back, where he changed into his snow-white wolf. Just as he disappeared off into the trees, I phased and followed him. He ran to the pond. It had become our place. This place was where we would go when we were feeling our most overwhelmed. I went behind a tree and walked up to him. He had yet to change back, but that didn't matter. What's wrong? I asked him. His wolf looked at me. He wasn't willing to talk, nor was I going to force it out of him. So, instead, I just sat next to him. We sat like that for what seemed like hours. He laid by my side while I stroked his soft fur. Lost in my musings, I didn't notice that coat had changed to skin. Quickly, I retracted my hand. No, he said, reaching for my hand. That felt nice. I resumed the gentle petting of his skin, and then he began to speak. Alex, I don't want you to go, Michael said suddenly. I took my hand away. Before you get mad, please let me explain, he continued. I don't know what it is. I just don't have a good feeling about you going. Michael, you can't justify me not going because you have a bad feeling. As a pack warrior, I need to follow our Luna, where she goes for her protection. If this school is calling to her, then who would we be to stand in her way? I explained gently. He seemed to get flustered over my response. No, that's not it. Many emotions passed over his face: frustration, confusion, longing. This is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. Listen, Mitch. He kissed me before I could even finish my sentence. It was sweet or gentle, it was full of longing and sorrow. Even though he wasn't my mate, it felt as if his lips were the only lips destined to kiss mine. In 100 different lifetimes, in 100 different scenarios, it was only him and I, Alex. The sound of Troy's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. Sorry, what? I asked if you wanted to catch a movie with me. He said, hope coating his voice. Oh, I'm sorry, Troy, but I can't. I didn't give him any time to respond. I just turned, and I ran. Unknown point of view. I watched from a distance as that dog wrapped his arm around what was mine. Only one thought was keeping me from phasing. Alex, with her long hair that looked like black silk, and her snow-colored skin, and the silver stars she had for eyes. Soon she would be mine, and nobody would know what hit them. Michael's point of view. Daniel sat looking at his computer, typing away. Whether he was responding to various emails or checking in with the different businesses run by the pack. Whatever the case, I couldn't be too sure. He had been very different since 3 of our members went off to business school. He was harsher towards the pups. He was shorter with the Omegas. It was harder for me to keep him in check than for Margot. I missed them, even Margot. Margot and I weren't exactly friends, but we had his best interest in common when it came to the alpha. I was against her from the start. This rogue was standing on our doorstep with a bad attitude and a severe case of daddy issues. But she blended right in. We had a mutual understanding. The sound of Daniel's phone ringing brought me out of my thoughts. Hello. Daniel was all business today, just as he was every day. Daniel was our leader, Margot was our Luna, and they had a deep sense of love for the pack. Jessie was Margot's second in command. She was bubbly and carefree, whereas Alexandra was strong and determined. I was silent. I observed and waited for my time. I was ready to take my destiny in hand. I no longer had any desire to find a mate, seeing as Alex was all I ever wanted out of life. I was going to serve my alpha and protect our borders at all costs. I felt ancient some days, others I thought that it was all the same thing over and over again. But when Alex came, nothing was the same. Every day, with her, was different, and she kept my head clear. You said your pack was the Midnight Mood pack? This immediately brought my attention to Daniel. That was Alex's old pack. You lost 22 numbers? Has your pack been trained? I struggled to hear the other side of the conversation. We have been, but our training methods are outdated. A voice on the other end of the phone was telling Daniel, the Midnight Moon pack had been attacked by the Rogue King's army. They had lost 22 of their members, and we were the closest ones to them. I guess the Alpha had heard of our training techniques and wanted us to help them. In North America, our fighting techniques went unchallenged. That was always the case, but this time, we were more substantial, and that was all due to the pack trainer that we had. She was our lead warrior and had earned her position 100 times over. Call Alex. I went over to my office and made the call. On the 3rd ring, I heard her voice. It sounded like a bell, but it was strong in its tonality. Hello? Alex? How are you? I couldn't help but ask. Usually, I was short and to the point. Today I wanted to hear her. Oh, you know, hanging in there. She sighed. She sounded exhausted. When I told her as much, she simply responded with, I haven't been sleeping the best. I took that to mean that she hadn't been sleeping at all. She usually had terrible dreams. In truth, Alexandra Black, though she was the most beautiful soul in the world to me, was the midnight angel. Alexandra and I had poured hours and hours over the legends. We had no idea what that meant. We did know that Alex had had many past lives, which was why she was so quick to pick up on other languages, like French. In each version of her life, she had a companion to help her in her mission to recover Adelphi. Her companion didn't have a name, but we knew they were necessary. It was like trying to find a needle in a stack of needles. Alex didn't have access to all of her memories, so we had no clue where to start. Typical. Usually, it was her mate. Alex was adamant that Jack was nowhere in her memories and refused to admit that he might be the lost warrior we had been looking for, not that I could blame her. There were 2 parts to the argument. The first, Jack was her destined mate and her warrior. The other view was Adelphi had been in hiding for so long now, We didn't even know if she was on this playing field anymore. Hey, listen, I'd really love to talk, but I don't have a lot of time. I started, immediately going into business mode. I explained to her the situation concerning the Midnight Mood Pack. I told her what happened and how many wolves had been lost. I worried that she would let her hatred for Jack cloud her judgment. 22 wolves lost, she said quietly. I knew that she was worried about her friend Tom. We don't have any names yet. We won't have the names until we get there, and that's only upon request. Tell Daniel we'll head out tomorrow. Got it. Michael? Her voice sounded hesitant. Yes, I love you. Alexandra's point of view, I felt an overwhelming amount of guilt. Tom was the only person of color who was an Omega. Many of the older members were outdated in their thinking. They picked on him the most. I tried to stand up for him as much as I could growing up, but it was rare that anyone paid either of us any attention. I felt guilty for leaving him. I should have brought him with me. I should have done more to get him out too. The guilt was eating me alive. How could I remedy this situation? How could I ensure that he was safe? I decided then I would do whatever it took in my power to get him out of that pack, not to appease my guilt but to ensure that his life was better from here on out. First, I had to confirm that my friend was still alive. That meant I had to face the very worst demons I had been running from. My pack. When we got off the plane, we were all pleased to see the familiar lush green forest. I looked at the piece of paper that I wrote the address on. I looked at Margot and Jesse. We knew we had to run there. We walked toward the cars. Margot knew how to hot wire. We waited as she worked with the car. We heard it spring to life. We had decided to drive until we got to the forest, then we would phase. Okay, let's bounce out of here, said Jesse. I see the forest just up ahead, I said as I pointed. Margot pulled the car over to the side of the road. We got out and phased. We probably looked really weird with a backpack on our backs. We bounded toward our required destination. Everything started to look very familiar. The feeling of dread started in my stomach. What pack did Daniel say it was? I asked through the mind link. The Raven Full Moon Pack. Why? Margot said. I stopped for a millisecond. The feeling growing inside of me, guys. I don't think this is a good idea, I said. I vowed never to come back here, and here I was going to train the very people I hated most in this world. Why? Is this? Yes. We made it to the border. We were surrounded by wolves immediately. They were growling and snapping at us. I looked over at Margot and Jesse. I saw the same evil look in their eyes that was probably in mine. We stopped. A red wolf was the first one to attack. It launched at me. It was fast but not fast enough. I dodged him easily. The others growled. Suddenly there was a full-out battle. We had them pinned in 2 minutes flat. I looked up at the familiar scent of Michael. Daniel wasn't far behind him. And behind him was 3 of the 4 people I hated most in this world. Otto Black, Joshua Black, and Jack Grayson. Daniel and Michael looked at each other and burst out laughing. I kid you not, people. The son of a bitches were laughing. They looked at us and said, "You can let go of them now." Jack made the move toward us, but growls were heard throughout the clearing. Is that your so-called mate? Jesse asked through the mind link. I nodded. She growled again. Jack backed of. You can shift, said Otto pointedly. Josh was silent. He kept staring at Jesse. Jesse, be careful, I warned. Why? She asked, getting all defensive. That's my brother, I said slowly. And that one there with the gray hair is my father. Both of the beat me black and blue, I explained. I knew that Michael and Daniel couldn't hear our conversation. I made sure of that. The last thing we needed was a war on our hands. I don't care how many bruises I got from them, but I will not let them touch a hair on your head, I said with a force that I didn't know I had. I'll be careful, she said. I nodded. I went behind the tree and shifted. I put on my clothes as fast as I could. I walked out and heard a bunch of gasps. I ran over to Michael. I felt his arms wrap around me. Hello. I'm Jack Grayson. I turned in Michael's arms. Jack looked ready to kill. I stepped forward. Hello. I growled out, this is Margot, Daniel's mate. And this is Jesse. I gestured toward them. This is Josh, my soon-to-be beta, and Otto, my beta. Where is the former alpha? I asked. As the head warrior, it was my job to know where the last alpha left off. Because I am also in charge of training other packs, it could mean the difference between the life and death. He died in the attack, said Jack sadly. I'm very sorry for your loss, I said stiffly. Now let's get on to the business at hand. How much have they been trained? I said. Not much, our head warrior, also my mate, wasn't here for the attack. I choked. Something funny. Is she your real mate? I don't see how it's any of your business, he said, anger rising in his voice. Actually, at Island. As the head warrior, it is my job to know the Luna of the pack. She tells me most of the things I need to know. I have trained at least 3 packs in the last 4 years. The Lunas told me what the pack eats, how the pack acts, and most importantly how much they take in. So if you think this is none of my business, check again. Because if you want this pack to survive, you'll do what I say. I was panting by the time I was done. Everyone looked shocked, even Jesse and Margot, who have seen me go off before. No, he sighed, she's not. My real mate was killed. She wasn't fit to be Luna. I rejected her. She ran away. They found a body in the forest. She was presumed dead. What was her name? Alex. And you think she's dead? Said Jesse. Yes. Why? Because she's not dead, you idiot. Said Margot. Excuse me? He said in shock. The Alex you know is dead, I said. But Alex is not dead. Now Michael, Daniel, we have been gone for quite a while. I'm pretty sure you want to see your sister and mate? I turned away. I still knew the way like the back of my hand. That was him, wasn't it? Said Michael stiffly. Your mate? Yes, I said. But remember, I hate them all. Wait. I turned around with a raised eyebrow. Otto, Jack, and Josh all looked at me. We never got your name. Said Jack. Alex. Alexandra Black. I said as I turned around. It's good to see you. Daddy. Females can't survive without their mates. So I knew that Alex was dead. The alpha of the Shadow Woods pack was here to help. The Rouges came in the middle of the night, almost unnoticed. Josh was on patrol. I can still hear the screams. Flashback, Alpha, we have a trespasser. I shot up in my bed. Ashley was on some weird spa appointment. She had been gone for 2 days now. How many were spotted? I said in alpha mode. I may have been a player, but after Alex left I cleaned up. And when I felt her pain and knew for sure she was dead, I picked a Luna. I strived to become a good alpha. At least 10. Send at least 30 out there. Alpha, there's only 10. It doesn't matter, get the warriors out there. Said Josh, chiming in. I raced out of my room and out the front door. But when I went out there I saw that a majority of the damage had been done. There might have only been 10, but they were massive. Rouges are lone wolves who are either wolves who got kicked out of their pack or wolves who don't like the rules. These did not like the rules. I knew who they were instantly. They called themselves Bloodlust, NW. They killed everyone in their way. I jumped, shifting in mid-air. Get the women and children into the bunkers. I told the remaining warriors who weren't fighting. A Rouge was on top of me. I watched in slow motion as my father came up behind him and attacked the Rouge, twisted and bit down on his neck and didn't let go until he stopped moving. I howled to let the pack know the former alpha was dead. That night there was no song of victory. Flashback over, I take my job very seriously, so when this big black wolf tackled my warriors easily I was shocked. You can shift, said Otto. The wolf went to phase back and outstepped the most beautiful girl I have ever seen, with her midnight black hair that went down to her waist. Her skin as pale as the snow on the ground. What caught my attention the most was her eyes. They were silver. She walked toward the beta and he wrapped his arms around her. How dare he, said my wolf. That took me by surprise. He doesn't talk to me much. Not after Alex. Hello, I'm Jack Grayson, I said, trying to be friendly, but came out bitter. Hello, said the girl as she turned in his arms. This is Margot, Daniel's mate, and this is Jesse. This is Josh, my soon-to-be beta, and this is Otto, my beta, I said as I pointed at each of them. We got down to business. Next thing I know they're walking toward the pack house. Wait, we never go your name. Alex. Alexandra Black. She said as she turned toward us. It's good to see you again, Daddy. What? Alexandra's point of view. I know pain. I have felt it through every crack and crevice of my body, mental and physical. I remember the depression I went through. It was like I was in a hole and I couldn't get out. I was always wondering, why? Why would a father do that to his daughter? Josh only hit me once or twice when I was bad. But the verbal abuse was terrible. People often told me I wasn't good enough, or that I was nothing, or I should go die because I wasn't worth the extra money. But I came out. And when I did I felt as if a weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, but I had changed. I was molded into something else. I threw myself into my studies, both of self-defense and to get my degree. I was going to school to be a music director for movies. Jesse, a cosmetologist. And Margot, a graphics art designer. I didn't take shit. I was fed up with it. So when Otto said, she can't train us, she's a girl, I knew anger was evident in my face and eyes. Lord help the man that told me I couldn't do something. Last I checked, 22 of your pack members are dead. Be your head warrior, Issa girl. And see, you will die if you don't get help. Said Daniel, she is your best shot. Said Margot with a smirk on her face. I wanted to slap it off. I will fight my own battles. I growled out. Very well, let's see what you can do. He phased into his brown wolf. I, being the civilized person I am, didn't phase at all. I noticed that he had a slight limp. He was putting all his weight on his front legs. I used this to my advantage. He lunged at me. I dodged him. I thought of all the times he hurt me, he demoted me, he abused me. But no more. When he lunged at me again I didn't dodge, instead I reached my hand out and wrapped it around his snout. I yanked him forward, he was strong. When he didn't move, I kicked his injured leg, he crumpled forward. I climbed on top of him. There is a pressure point just behind the ear, I pushed on it. I held my position until he started whimpering. Do you submit? I asked. He says, yes, but only because of my legs. You can get up now, said Jack. Not once did I let my guard down. I got off of him. He stood there awkwardly. You can shift, you know, said Josh to Otto. He waited as if he were in a conversation. Oh, said Jack. Let's go, guys, said Josh. He shredded the only clothes he had, so, yeah, he explained. He walked forward, we followed. It was as simple as that. You were good, said Daniel. This is the pack you're from, isn't it? Michael said stiffly through the link. Who was your mate? Said Daniel. I blocked Michael out of the link. I didn't want him to kill someone. The Alpha. It didn't want to go any further than that. We can leave, let them fend for themselves. The thought brought a small smile to my face. But, I couldn't do that. The thought of hundreds of people dead because of me, the very thought sent my stomach rolling. That is a very kind offer, however I couldn't live with myself, knowing there was a pack that needed help. Thank you but no Daniel, now pay attention to your mate. I cut the conversation off. I hadn't realized that we were at the house. Alright. Girls will bunk together. And so will the boys. He said. He looked so awkward. He wouldn't stop staring at Jessie. It was starting to piss me off. Okay, is there something on her teeth? I said rudely. He looked at me shocked. No, did he just stutter? Then stop staring like a puppy. I said in annoyance. I walked in. I had to clean these cabins for visitors, so I knew this place like the back of my hand. There was a hallway leading to the kitchen and dining room. There were only 2 rooms. We all called dibs on our rooms. I was wiped out. When I saw that bed, I collapsed. I didn't want to deal with the questions. Sometimes, when we dream, we get a glimpse of the future, or what is to come. Falling. That's all I was doing. Falling through the world like a fish moves through water. When I landed, I was really confused as to why I was in a field. All around me dead bodies lay, their blood running like a river. Some had stomach wounds, others had their heads cut off. What you are seeing is the battle of the fallen, said a voice behind me. I turned around and there was a girl. She was an exact replica of me. The only difference was that she had white hair. Everything else was the same. Right down to the pale skin and the silver eyes. The what? I asked. You have wings. It wasn't a question. So do you? I said, uncertainty coating my voice. Come, let's go for a ride. Her wings extended, so did mine. We vaulted up. It was a close race. But still, she won. We came to rest on a small cliff. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Alexandra da Luca. I come from Italy. I was born 1534. I am you and you are me. What the? That's not possible. Listen, I don't have much time. They are coming for you. They can smell your blood now as it runs through your veins. Who? I said on full alert. You'll learn soon enough. There are 2 men that wish to do this world harm. They have something you need. Go get it. Where is it? What is it? That's for you to find out. I sat bolt right in the bed. Alex, thank the Lord, said a voice. I turned to see Jessie breathing a sigh of relief. What is it? I asked. Alex, do you know what time it is? I looked out the window. It looked like it was maybe noon. Noon? The date? Yeah, the 2nd, because we came on the 1st. No, Alex, it's not the 2nd. It's the 4th of October. We came on the 1st of October. Alex, you've been asleep for 3 days. Alexandra's point of view. 3 days. I still couldn't wrap my head around it. Wait, hold on, 3 days? I asked, surprised. I mean, I love sleep. But not that much. Yeah. Today you can take over training, he pack, said Margot nonchalantly. I went and got in the shower. When I got out, I put on a sports bra and Nike leggings. When I came out of the bathroom, Michael was there. He took one look at me, then Daniel. He walked straight toward me, scooped me in his arms, then he kissed me. I always got a rush when he kissed me. As if we were the only ones left. His kiss was usually soft and gentle. This time it was hungry and possessive. Someone cleared their throat. When we broke away, Jessie looked at us shocked. You but a W. I have to go burn my eyes out now. She screamed, running out the door. I chuckled. A thought suddenly hit me like a freight train on ice. Wait, who has been training the pack the past 3 days? I asked, curiosity coursing through my veins. You see, a funny, you should ask. Stuttered Jessie, walking back into the room. She never stuttered. Never. Who is it? I said, unable to keep the annoyance out of my voice. Vivian, said Michael solemnly. What? What has she been teaching them? Nothing. She makes them do stuff around the pack house, and if they don't do it they have to run 30 laps carrying 10 bricks each. That actually isn't a bad idea, I said. I was impressed. When we got out there I saw the pack gathering for training. Wait, you and Vivian will split the training, okay? Said Daniel. I was going to split it up. She would get the kids, I would get the warriors. I hated working with someone breathing down my neck, so there was no way in hell I was going to let her help. I suppose that works, he sighed. We kept walking. When we got there, I saw Jack's head snap toward me. His eyes darkened as he took in my six-pack and tattoos. I don't have a lot. One said, throw me to the wolves and I'll return leading the pack. Another was a swirl design on my back. My wings went into my back so I was safe. My scars were shown. My branding marks on my stomach, the scars of lashes all across the top of my back. It just looked like I had scars on my shoulder blades, where my wings disappeared into my back. Everyone line up now. Everyone looked at me and went back to what they were doing. Danielle went to yell, but I stopped him. I went quietly up behind Thomas Olson, who was black. I don't mean to sound mean, that's just what he was. He was a scrawny little thing. He was an Omega. He was actually a friend. Or as close as a friend came. He was the only one paying attention. Hello, Tom, I said kindly. Hey, Alex, he said dumbfounded. Yeah, it's me. I'm here to help, like bringing towels to them. Still not allowed to train. Bullshit. I took in his appearance. He was wearing old raggedy jeans and a t-shirt that said, Made in Brooklyn. Most of the clothes that the Omegas wore were worn down and used. Tom has never been to Brooklyn before in his life. Go change into something. I was searching for the right word. Comfortable, yet easy to move in. He turned around and went to change. When he came back, I got down to business. They were still ignoring me. I walked silently up behind one of the warriors. I grabbed his hand and yanked it behind himself and flipped him. He landed with a thud. I put my foot on him. Rule number 1. Never ever put your guard down when you're in a crowd, not even when you know the people in it. I let him up. I had everyone's attention, even the older ones. Alpha Jack, who is your best warrior? I said. Just as he was about to answer, that would be me. Mine, growled out Michael. I looked at him in shock. I turned my head. There standing in front of me was the one person I dreaded. His mate couldn't be her. Anyone but her. Walking out of the crowd was none other than Miss Pack Slut herself, Ashley Smith. Michael point of view. She was beautiful. I didn't know what her name was, but she was gorgeous. Her long blonde hair that I could spend hours running my hands through. Her baby blue eyes that were as blue as the sky. One thing I noticed was she was wearing a lot of makeup, and I do mean a-lot. Why? She was so perfect though. She took one look at me and smirked. Ashley, said Alex. Ashley. That name. Geez, I sound like a love-struck puppy. Oh, is this your new boy toy? Said Ashley, motioning to me. No, said Alex. She was devoid of all emotion. I felt a little guilty. She knew this would happen. She accepted it. Then, who is this? She said. Jack walked up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. I didn't try to hold the growl that slipped from my chest. My wolf was pissed. Ooh, looks like someone is jealous, said Jack. Yes, I'm jealous now. Get you filthy, dirty hands off of my mate, I said, anger slipping into my voice. He rejected his mate to have mine. He will burn under my claws, growled out my wolf. Alex. I still wanted her. Not as much now, but it was still there. What is your rank? She said in a soft, silky voice. Before I could answer, Alex was already talking. Michael, we have a job to do, said Alex softly. You can go to her soon enough, bro, said Daniel through the link. I have to leave then. It's too hard to resist, I said seriously. Michael, go train the pups. Margot, go with him. Jesse, dear, and Daniel, you're with me. Alex was barking out orders. She was getting into it. It's what I love about her. Margot and I walked off to train the pups. On the way I realized that Alex wasn't very happy about this sudden turn of events, and I wondered why. I also noticed that Jack was a player. That pain that was in my chest had left my wolf howling in pain. It happened every night for 3 months when Alex came to us. Oh my goddess. Ashley was the pack slut, Alexandra's point of view. Run. I said. They took one look at me and they were gone. 5 hours later I was standing on the roof. Alex. I turned around to see Michael. He was so handsome it took my breath away. But he found his mate. Down below everyone was partying. Ashley heard his voice and her head snapped in our direction. Je suis seul dans ce. I am alone in this. Alex, je suis désolé, vais la rejeter. Alex, I am sorry, I will reject her. Non. Je ne vais pas vous laisser elle sera brisée, no. I will not let you, she will be broken. You were never alone, he said solemnly. Do you remember the first 3 months after you came? I nodded my head. And I looked so uncomfortable. You thought it was because of you? Well, it was because of a pain in my chest. Yes, I had it too. Why would I want to be with someone who didn't wait? He said. He looked so sad. However, I couldn't let him reject her. Who does she think she is? Touching what's mine, growled out Legend. Who? Confusion was coating my voice. Ashley. What did she touch? Jack. Oh no, don't you remember he rejected us? Can't you see he wants us back? No. What about Michael? I'll always love him. Jack has just forgotten. For now you need to deal with it, okay? I need to go fly and clear my head. I said, cutting her off. Michael, you can not reject her. She will be shattered. And what if she rejects me? He said miserably. Then I'll be here with open arms. I said, going up to him. I kissed him on the cheek. I stayed up there for the rest of the night. Until only Otto, Jack, Ashley, Margot, Josh, Jesse, Daniel, and Vivian were left. Alex, we know you're up there. Jesse sighed. I jumped off and landed swiftly on my feet. Hey guys. I said to Jesse, Margot, and Daniel as Michael came out of the house. I ignored Josh, Jack, and Ashley. Otto was sitting there watching us as if we were vermin under his nose. I'm gonna go. You know, I said, pointing behind me. They all looked at me with understanding in their eyes. I shouldn't be too long, just gotta clear my head. I turned and walked off toward the forest. Hold on, said Otto. I turned around slowly. What are you, he said, pointing at me, doing with them? You are still that worthless little slut that killed my mate and Josh's mother. He said, pointing between Jesse, Margot, Daniel, Vivian, and Michael. Yeah. They are way too good for you, said Ashley. Everyone growled, even Jack. Leave me alone. I no longer answer to you, and you forget she was my mother too. I said as I turned around. I walked through the woods. I walked through the night, feeling its soft wind on my face. The stars were vibrant as they shone silver. My eyes were silver and shining, and people bullied me because of them. It was December 15th. The snow crunching under my feet. I was 20 years old now. And finally, after 16 years of pain, I was happy. Finally, I came to a cliff. It dropped straight down, opening up to a lake that stretched out. There were small slits in the back on my shirt. They were very fine and thin. Nobody saw them. Nobody knew about them. I relaxed my shoulders. I turned around facing the forest. I was standing at the edge of the cliff. I saw a flash of movement just as I fell. I was falling through the sky, the wind whipping through my hair. My wings extended, and I was airborne. I reversed my course. Instead of going down, I was going up. I rushed past the top of the cliff. I was racing up and up. I was swirling through the sky. I went up so high that to the naked eye, it looked like I was a bird. I flew over the pack house. Everyone was still there, sitting, watching, and waiting, everyone except Josh. I saw Jesse smile knowing that it was me. They were all staring at me. I just floated. It felt as if time had stopped. I wanted to see the cliff and the lake. It was so calm. It was also where my mother died. When I saw the cliff, I began my descent. However, I saw the lake. I just flew up more. I had always wanted to do this. I folded my wings behind me. I hurtled toward the water. When I broke the surface, I went to the bottom of the lake. When my conversed feet hit the ground, I pushed up off of my feet. I spiraled up toward the ledge of the cliff. I landed surprisingly. I was all dry. What the hell was that? My head snapped up in the direction of the voice. Oh Shista. Josh. As Alex walked away, I slipped away to follow her. I followed Alex into the woods. She walked and walked, stopping only to tie her shoes. She looks like she's in her element, I thought. She stopped suddenly at the base of a cliff. I could barely see the shine of the water. I turned away. It's funny she would choose to come here. This was in fact where our mother died. I knew she didn't kill our mom. I just didn't want the people bullying her to start bullying me. I was gonna be the beta. Alex was an omega. Enough said. Now she's training our pack. I turned back just as I watched Alex disappear over the edge. No. I ran forward only to see that something had caught her. Now she was shooting up. Something had her. No, wait. I squinted to see that it was her. Alex had wings. I watched as she soared up and up. She flew off into the direction of the pack house. She was so high up now she looked like a bird. I stood there frozen on the spot. She had changed so much. Her hair was always so frizzy. And now it's long and straight. And by long, I mean it went down to her butt. Then I thought about Jessie. She was mine. But she avoided me like the plague. My wolf was constantly whimpering. Just by looking at her you could tell she was a firecracker. Suddenly, Alex came shooting back. My eyes following her in wonder. She was doing dives. And she's shooting this way and that way, almost as if she could forget her troubles. Just by flying she swooped down, then touched back down on the ground.